doing it. You still did it. Those are your consequences. So you're saying all of this, they like everything but the actions have consequences part of conservatism.
Well, that's the key. I mean, you don't even have to go to the racial aspect of it. They seem to have lost that's just a conservative principle, if that makes sense. That's just a conservative principle. Actions have consequences. That's what's odd about the whole thing. You don't have to go to, you don't know the history of your people. So, I mean, what you're saying, I'm just saying, even more fundamentally, there's the conservative actions have consequences. When you do things in the public sphere, it can affect your life. It can affect your livelihood. That's the whole ball game in part.
I told Julio in the other room, I said, you guys are the ones always arguing for unrestricted liberty. You want the liberty to hang out with who you want to. You want the liberty to go wherever you want. You want the liberty to make the decisions. And here's an employer exercising its liberty, and you're mad about it. That's a problem. Conservatives they talk about liberty all the time, and I said, the privilege to work is not one that's without limitation. It is true that in the workplace you do have some rights, but if an employer isn't disciplining you for reasons that are illegal, the employer is fine. And the guy, it seems, just didn't want to shut up. He wanted to keep on talking. They told him they didn't like what he said, and they probably told him that moving forward, they expect him to do X and avoid doing Y. And he said, no, I'm going to keep doing Y, and so I'm going to quit. And that's what happened. So, it's odd. And then they said that in 2025, the conservatives are the ones getting canceled all the time. And the folks on the left are not being canceled. I pointed them to Claudine Gay, and I said, consider how she was treated. She was embarrassed, humiliated. She was stripped of some job responsibilities that were major, all because she didn't share Trump's views on a particular subject. So she was canceled.
Yeah. So my thing is that what's interesting to me is that they engage with these racist discourses. The people who dance on the grave of DEI and whatever, with very little consideration. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm far away from the phone. With very little consideration of how living in the world as a Negro, as a Black, means that the proliferation of those racist discourses, which turn into public policy, will also limit your ability to exercise your individual liberties and freedoms. There's just not the racial analysis, right? Like you mentioned, Matt, that it is a really new and strange thing to see Black people engage in these politics with no racial lens, with no thought or attention paid to twice as good. I don't know. It's just everybody wants to do whatever they want.
Part of the issue. Go ahead, Arkin, do you think?
I was just going to say, Kimberly, slight pushback. There are people who will say, and for good reason, that the twice as good requirement is unfair and shouldn't be imposed on them.
Sure, I would say that it's unfair, but
that's because you're liberal.
Right.
Conservatives would not say that.
Right.
Conservatives would say you need to be more than twice as good because you and your people are behind in the progress and march of modern civilizations and cultures.
Yeah, I'm talking about the deficits in the ideology, the philosophy of the modern Black Republican. there's they've embraced an anything goes that is new.
I would argue there's a strain of Black conservatism, not a strain, excuse me. I would argue one of the major strands of Black conservatism is not only to critique, Hurricane's on the phone, this is random, but I'll say it. Get it in.
I can hear it.
Oh, you're back. Fascinating. I would say, Hurricane, anybody else who's interested, if you're not interested, I apologize. I would say that there is a strand of not only this strain is not only the lack of critique of the twice as good credo, or not credo, requirement, but an embrace of it. Because it pushes the race along faster. I think Black conservatives actually generally embrace that Black people need to be twice as good. Because when they're twice as good, that allows them to catch up. So if we're in a race, you're in a race, and the guy in lane 5 is 50 meters ahead of you, and you're running at the same speed as person 5, you're never going to catch up. But if you're running double speed, you'll catch up and right quick. They actually like the twice as good principle.
Yeah.
And they like the twice as good principle, not out of animus, traditionally, not out of animus for the Negro, but as a way to make up for the history and the legacies of enslavement.
For sure. I mean, I was always taught that you have a responsibility to your people to be the best that you can be, to do the best work, to get the best grades, to be the most punctual, even though I always failed at that. That is how we show our care for our community. And that's like, that comes from the people who people project cooning backwards onto them. But I don't know. I've never seen more cooning from the liberals. The liberals are coons too, but that's another conversation.
Yes, Dan. Let me say something about the sort of animating, not animating, but the organizing principle for this strain of conservative thought. As I understand it, anybody's allowed to come up and disagree or offer nuance, as people like to say. This is how I understand it. I think they understand, like other conservatives, they understand society effectively as a marketplace. And this is where people who do a very thin and oftentimes impoverished reading of respectability politics, or what they call respectability politics, get it wrong. It's not that the people generally who come out of uplift ideology believe that if you do these things, white people or the dominant class will recognize them and reward you out of a kind of paternalistic largesse or charity or paternalism. It's not that. It's in fact in this marketplace, in sort of societal interaction, much like markets, you being twice as good, you'll get the benefit regardless of what they do. That's the move many people forget. It's not like, oh, if you do this thing, these people over here are going to recognize you. Oh my God, you dress well, you're punctual. Here's your cookie and some milk before I was giving you half a glass of water. No, what they actually believe is they understand there's a kind of marketplace. Society is a kind of marketplace. And if you put in more, you'll get out more. You get out what you put in. Stephen A. Smith on that commercial, he used to have that, which he no longer has, because he no longer has commercials like that because he makes so much money on ESPN. That's Kimberly Foster.
Yeah.
Like this idea, when you say punctual, it's not you need to be on time to impress white people.
No.
Or the dominant culture. It's you're on time and you perform form a certain set of behaviors and present yourself in a particular way that, much like there's a kind of market relation, you're going to reap more from your investment because you're investing more, regardless of what the white people do.
Oh, I hate the white proximity thing. How has that taken hold so deeply?
Wait, what did I miss? You guys are talking about punctuality or something?
Sort of. Yeah, it was just like the set of behaviors that people see as, under respectability or whatever. And this is oftentimes seen as, conservative gain. And so there's this idea that when people mangle it, they're trying to be like white people, or white people are going to reward them for respectability. And actually what it is, and the most mature and thoughtful Black conservative thought, is they understand it as a kind of sort of a market dynamic. If you invest more, you'll get out more, regardless of what comes from, regardless of what the dominant culture says or does. So if you had a better product, just by sheer market dynamics, that product is going to perform better. So if your whiskey actually tasted good, your uncle would sell it, doesn't matter how near or far he is.
Not too much.
Good whiskey.
Well, maybe, but not always.
No. But Hurricane, you keep doing the same. You're a liberal. I'm telling you.
You right now,
there.
and nothing changes.
Oh, I see. You're telling me they're claiming you're not stating it as.
You know what, liberal? Shut the fuck up.
Yes.
You're
restating
their claim.
Yes. We're trying to work through some of the ideology because for them, this respectability politics actually has nothing to do with white people. That's why it's such a. I'm glad people stop talking respectability about some of the best things.
Now you don't deploy. You know what, liberal? Shut the fuck up.
Still there.
Okay.
I apologize. But anyway, it's not about like, you're trying to be like white people. You want to be like, no. They understand it as like a market dynamic. They believe that you have a better product. You're better at work. This is all linking up to the twice as good. If you are twice as good, you bring more value. I'm using these market metaphors because I think they're useful. That you bring more value to whatever entity you're involved in, and you'll get more out of it. Regardless of what happens. This is why Black conservatives will point to like random businessmen in the height of Jim Crow or the 1880s and say, see, if you just see how this person did. And a lot of them are doing that in good faith. Some of them are doing it in bad faith. But a lot of them are doing that in good faith because that's what animates them. But at the very least, they believe that if you strive that way, you begin to close the gap between you and the runner in lane 5. To use another metaphor, I'm now using track metaphors and market metaphors. The sports metaphors work for everything. I just think the difference between and see what's fascinating because Kimberly, I was seeing what we were talking about the other day. It's fascinating because a lot of these people are still alive, and they find themselves because of partisan politics for the most part. As like if they're still public, like Glenn Lowry found himself having to defend Trump, or he was partially trolling too. But like they found some Trumpism and sort of MAGA ideology does not align with modern or traditional Black conservatism at all. And it doesn't align culturally, socially, economically. It just doesn't align at all, in my mind. It's free for disagreement if they want, but it doesn't align at all. But MAGA Black conservatives, they got the power. They're the mad now dog. Shout out to Finding Forrester. So he brought these people along. And what's fascinating is some of these guys have sons and daughters, actual sons and daughters, but also intellectual legatees. And so, like, Claude Steele's son is a MAGA. Or you can get a Thomas Chatterton Williams. I'm trying to understand in part, how to understand someone like a Thomas Chatterton Williams. And they all want to do what Shelby Steele did in the 90s. They just can't do it. Anyway. We can talk about the boy if people want. I can play this video.
Because that stuff comes with responsibility, and I think that if there's anything that hopefully we can respect about the old school Black conservatives is that they weren't running away from the idea of responsibility or carrying weight or duty the way, I'm sorry, this has turned into misandry, but they weren't running away from duty the way that so many of the young Blaga are. There is a way in which, this is going to be incendiary, but so many of these young Black male MAGA, the young Black male conservatives, they are neutered. They're in crisis because they don't have direction. There's no purpose outside of individual pleasure. Miss Malaprop. But they mirror the posture of Trump and those, decadent, indolent Trumpers at the top. But we can't do that. We can't afford to do that. So,
that's right. That's right. One thing that they have, I think, one rhetorical advantage they have over Black liberals, which Kimberly Foster and I have been talking about a lot on the app, at least maybe a little like 5 minutes on the life. I'm not a white lesbian, so we're talking about Black culture. Is the cultural angle. I don't know when Black people are going, Black liberals, leftists, academics are going to realize it, but you cannot give the cultural discussion to the right, or what we're calling the right, or Black conservatives. You cannot. And they have. And they will be increasingly more appealing to regular people. This is a very, very new phenomenon. And it is, and we all know where it comes from. Anybody can respond if anybody can speak if they want. The stage is open, the open debate. You cannot not talk about these things. I'm sorry, you just cannot. They're going to win every time, or appeal to people every time. In a world without Jim Crow, the way people live Jim Crow, in a world without lynching, in the way people had to live with lynching, without all those sort of all-pervasive, shared forms of systematic oppression, race-based, you cannot give the conservatives culture, and they will continue to appeal to people because liberals and leftists are afraid to talk about culture. And Kimberly Foster, this is one of the areas where, again, they align with the nationalists. Black nationalists. Some Black nationalists, not all. They talk about culture all the time.
May I ask, this is probably a remedial question, but I just thought about it.
Let me crash, not remedial.
Yeah, you can crash if you want. I'm working.
I remember last time you said the word remedial and people crashed?
Remember that.
That was so insane. But keep going.
Some things are remedial.
It is.
It's not a bad thing.
That's so bizarre.
Okay, so tell me, and then Kimberly can weigh in. Why are Black liberals, Black folks on the left, so reluctant to discuss culture? Why do they run away from that?
Very, very good question. It's because they have been indoctrinated to think that even to come close to that stove is to get burnt with the taint of being a white supremacist. Burnt with the taint. These metaphors are insane. What the fuck am I saying? Burnt with the taint, that stove. To even approach talking about culture is to smell white supremacists. So to even come close to it, that the discourses are like inherently infected. This is just insane. And you know where it comes from. I'll let Kimberly Foster name it.
We all know that I blame Black studies.
You can keep going. There's more to name.
Not too much on Black studies.
I mean, look, I'm the biggest fan. I'll give money and whatever. But yeah, I think that it's Black studies and that white proximity stuff. That it's almost like being desirous of white proximity gets like thrown out like it's a slur, like it's whiteness. And so we're at a point where that sounded like my granny. We're at a point where doing things decent and in order is desiring to be approximate with whiteness. Like, that's not...
It's insane.
I don't associate that with whiteness at all. White people are not... In fact, in my community of origin, in my upbringing, we associated whiteness with slovenly, out of order, poorly dressed, kids running up, down, around. They had to put their kids on leashes because they didn't know how to act. They didn't know how to comport themselves in the workplace. They wore flip-flops in the winter. Church was boring because they didn't have no program. That is the cultural script about whiteness that was dominant for me. And so I am always taken aback when people say not wanting people to wear jeans to church is white supremacy. Anyways, we don't have to do that. I'm just saying it's just it's a different thing. And I'm not sure where people pick. Well, I do know where people pick that up, but I do think we need to let that go. Because it strikes me now as anti-Black, because it emboldens people to punch down on the old Black people who are still living, but also their ancestors. People who experience violence that we can never imagine. People use that proximity to whiteness and white supremacy stuff on them. Yeah. Anyways, that's my...
You gave some specifics. I'll extract it again to keep it at a normative level, more of a normative level, or an abstracted level at the very least. Because you don't want to trigger people when people start coming up with that. It's just that, and it's not just Black studies. It's the way that it's absorbed and taken up in the public sphere. That's actually where it comes from. That's the problem. Is that you get rigorous analyses in an environment, in a milieu, in a contained space, the academy, and then people, and we hear it on here all the time. People think that they have the capacity to talk about these things in a rigorous and responsible way, and instead they're not only mangling ideas, they're ruining the very thing that they think they're supposed to be espousing without knowing it. That's the problem. And so it's become to the point point where you can't talk about it at all. You just can't talk about it at all. Someone wants a study on the importance of a parent being in the home. What the fuck? It's insane.
Okay, so it's not. I'm
what's
sorry.
going on?
I'm sorry. I didn't. You took a pause.
No, it's okay. Do you think?
So when I say Black Studies, I think you're right. It is about the misappropriation of deeply considered, thoughtful work. People poured their entire lives into combing through archives and stuff, and people just fuck it up. But I think in the last 15 years, the academics have tried to be too cool.
Of course.
And so there is the y'all are fucking up ideas that you don't understand part of it, but then there's also the academics want to be all up in the Kool-Aid, they want to be all up in the videos, and maybe that's not the best place for them to be.
No. They should. Well, it's not. It's not only that. You know what it is too. Hold on.
iPhone 6S for this, so I have to update to like an iPhone.
Like they have more Black women managers now, like per capita, proportionally speaking, than would ever be represented by the population. And so I think it's fair to point out that although I agree that there needs to be a proactive solution to righting the wrongs of the past, no question about it. If it's right in our face that that's happening, we have to at least laugh about how far it's come instead of complain about how far it needs to go. I mean, that's what I'll say about that. So I think we need to celebrate where we've come as a result of the last 10 or 15 years of being constantly reminded how fucking awful we are as white people.
Well,
and then I think we also have to recognize that it potentially has gone too far and it needs to pull back a little bit because these are not black and white issues. No pun intended. These are scales of gray.
Well, just it strikes me how much your characterization of the book White Fragility is contextualizing everything that you're saying and seeing, right? You're pushing for white durability or something to that effect. And you're pointing out that the context by which this author tries to push the black-white conversation into this, whatever she means by white fragility, you have a visceral dislike, right? You see it as almost specifically targeting your buttons. You see it as like not speaking to you, and you see it as a gaslighting, which is then provoking you to engage in some kind of white durability, like a positive imaging of what it means to be white in the modern age. I just find it interesting that, she has you within her ballpark. You're playing her game.
I'm playing her game, but her characterization of how psychologically dangerous I am and how I fail to recognize it just because my skin is white.
You fragile.
It doesn't resonate as real. Yeah, it just doesn't. I'm not fragile. I just want to call out how unrealistic it seems to be.
Let me put it this way, because she has denizens, people following through on this ideology. Within that reasoning, they predicted that you would turn against them and towards the whiteness to feel secure because of, as they will explain, your fragility. I think you're right about the whole gaslighting.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
But this is why it's insidious, just because it's unfalsifiable, right? So what they say is the discomfort that Mike is feeling. See, that's a sign of how much work there's left for him to be doing. Mike, you know what you need to do? You need to lean into that discomfort. The more you hate this and dislike it, wow, you're just revealing how racist you are.
Exactly.
And so it's a fucking scam.
It's like trolling me. It's trolling me. It's trolling me and then saying, see, I told you so when I react.
And it's all paths lead to the same conclusion. That's why it's unfalsifiable. If you say you're not racist, well, there you go. That's just denial. So the only path is either you say you're racist or you're revealing how racist you are by saying you're not racist. And thankfully, a lot of people have seen through most of that.
I read White Fragility when it was the new book back in the day, and I thought it was hilarious because, so I didn't buy into any of it. I thought it was ridiculous.
It is kind of crazy.
Basically, the book, though, makes her out to just be a raging racist. Like, her little anecdotes.
This is true. You know, I say this. Oh, by the way, you said you were going to. What was that? Political science thing? My cousin coming
Hold on,
out.
Kimberly, you're being streamed by John Kitover.
Oh, I don't.
Do you need to do your thing so you can report it again?
Yeah, if I could just get a link to it, let you know.
Sure. I got you. 1 second.
There's a shift happening. I was just talking to somebody. The woke times at the, what do we call them, the Mag 7 companies, they're over. The woke people, we don't have as much pull as we used to. I'll just leave it there.
That's because you guys went a little too far with it, if you know what I mean. I'm not gonna go into detail. Good morning, Kimberly.
Hi.
Brother Maga, I got a phone call and I missed what you said. What did you say when I got a call? If you don't mind repeating it really quickly.
I forgot.
Well, can we talk about why Black conservatives take conservatism from my end?
Well, I was going to say about the, I'm going to talk about the intellectuals and then we'll go to the Black conservatives. Okay. I think one of my strengths is I've always been really comfortable with hierarchy. And most people, it disturbs them. It unsettles them. The idea that you have to order things. That sometimes there is an order. Sometimes there is a top. You're the top. You're the Coliseum. And sometimes, we won't say the bottom, but there are people who are below. Okay. In expertise, in knowledge, in style, in pizzazz, in charisma, in talent. You know, right? So many different vectors, right? And I think that the way that the Black academics are so unwilling to sit with the idea, like the possibility that some things are better, some people, I'm sorry, are smarter. Some people are more knowledgeable, more thoughtful, more articulate. They have better ideas. In order to perform being down or perform being accessible, I do think it has harmed us. And I think that you can embrace or understand hierarchy without being malicious, punitive, nasty, a bitch, an asshole, unkind.
Waking it up, I see.
But you're just in tune with reality. And that disconnect, that intentional running away, which does read as false, it's not good. You know, I'm a person, I am not an academic, I say this all the time. I'm a person with ideas on the internet, but that's a choice, right? Like, and so I don't think that people who are serious scholars should be doing what I do. I'm gonna be honest with you, and it's not even about being territorial. It's we do different things.
Damn.
If you have to, like my cousin Camille is going to AP USA or whatever, she's a political scientist. If you gotta go to the political science conference next week, you don't need to be doing what I do. I'm sorry, I have no job. I don't have any responsibilities. Nobody can take away my paycheck. I also don't have a doctorate. Like, we do different stuff, and I just think everybody wants to do everything, and the academics just need to embrace, like, you chose a different path, and that is okay.
Yeah. So, are you saying, Kimberly, can you break that down in layman's terms for the 097 people in the room, if there's any others that are present with me here?
I am saying I respect